legislation is not being developed based on parties' electoral programs. And the experts from the Ukrainian Institute for International Policy will tell us about this.
And the idea of the project was to analyze the election programs of political parties, to help voters make their choice. And now with the help of this project, the experts analyzed whether what the politicians put into coalition agreement corresponds to what is in their programs. And I am inviting Olena, Medvedeva, Nadiya, Afanasyeva, who are experts of Ukrainian Institute for International Policy. Thank you. To continue our previous press conference with Baramat, when we presented the website and explained how it works now, we would like to share with you the results of our project. It was launched on the 15th of October, and it worked till elections. The site was visited by many thousand, it had many thousand views, and 4,000 did this test. And we did the rating of parties, and there were 5 of them. The 5th one was Sila Людей, Samopomich, and 510. The 4th position, Народный front. The 3rd position, Batkivshina. The 2nd, Radical Party of Leshko, and the 1st, Gritsenko. But with all that, we would like to mention that this party has never got into the parliament despite their populistic promises. Like the entrepreneurs shouldn't see the workers of the tax police in their companies. So the Baramat project was not designed to decide on what is the choice of the party, but it was to draw attention of the voters to election programs, to basically motivate them to look at the website of the Central Election Committee and read the political programs of the parties. There were many very important for us comments on the web page of Facebook. The most valuable comment was, I was surprised by the result, and I after that read the program and found many new things there. So it motivated the voters to read programs more attentively and to register the promises that political party gives before elections. After that, if the party gets to the parliament, the voter has the right to demand that the party fulfills the promises. Based on the content, here you heard, you saw some tags, you see some tags, and these tags, these are the words which most frequently are repeated in the programs of the parties. And if you look at these 6 tags, you see that these are mostly Ukraine party, quite populistic words which have nothing behind, unfortunately. And the first, can you show the first cloud? That is the cloud from 6 programs of the parties which are in the parliament. Poroshenko, Batkivshina, Народный front, Leshko, Samopomich, and opposition bloc. These are all nice words. We, Ukraine. It's nice for voter to hear that. Self-governance. Every election program had something about decentralization. Even in opposition bloc, And now we would like to move to analysis of the election programs and what do we expect from a new parliament, and that is what Olena Medvedeva will tell you about. So fighting for power is going on. The parties are fighting for the possibility to get to the parliament, but when they get the trust from people and when they get power, they do not know what to do with that because they don't have any systemic approach. And we see that from their programs. And we, from the views of our site, we see that people are not ready to spend a lot of time to check where the political parties fulfill their promises. That is why we launched this project. We will continue monitoring that. And now allow me to make a forecast about how this should be ideally if the parties would fulfill their promises. In the programs of all the parties, there are 5 common things. First of all, defense. The defense, everyone agrees that we need to reform defense sector, allocate more money for that and support it. Then the reform of law enforcement bodies, that's the second item that we see in all the programs. Everyone agrees with that, but we will see whether voting in the parliament will correspond to what they have in their programs. Decentralization, that's a mantra repeated in all the programs, but we'll see whether everyone understands decentralization same way. Deregulation of business, simplification of procedures is promised in every program, and support of the population with low income, that's what they promised, but I'm not sure whether they will be doing it. In any case, they promised it on the website of the Central Election Committee. What's interesting, those parties which are not discussing the creation of coalition, the biggest opponents are programs of opposition bloc and radical party of Leshko. When we read the programs, we had an impression that these programs were written just opposing, contradicting each other. Leshko says we create guerrilla groups, and opposition says disarm all the armed groups and so on. But because these parties are not negotiating about entering coalition and they will be outside of coalition, we're interested whether the results of their voting will be as different as their programs are. Also, having read programs, we made the priorities of coalition agreements of Poroshenko version Samopomich and of the coalition between Poroshenko, Samopomich and Народный Front, and they can put the following into the agreement: security, control over the state border, construction of the reinforced border, all Ukrainians will be free, new military doctrine of Ukraine, approval that Russia is the state aggressor, procurement and manufacturing of modern armaments, modern equipment and arming Ukrainian army, return of Crimea, protection of national minorities, including Ukrainians and Crimean Tatars, refusal from out of bloc status, Euro-Atlantic integration. In the section, openness and transparency of authorities, combating corruption, open party lists, creating independent body to investigate the corruption among senior officials, anti-corruption bureau, expanding powers of anti-monopoly committee, declaring by civil servants their incomes and expenditures, the information about the decisions of state bodies, refusal from deputies, immunity, renewal of the judicial corps, municipal militia, renewal of the corps of prosecutors, the good payment for the work of MPs and ministers, and introducing executive committees of oblast councils and not governors.
In social and humanitarian policies, equal opportunities for disabled people, subsidies for communal services, raising of the salary for teachers, social guarantees for families of those who died in the anti-terrorist operation, grants to young scientists, attractive jobs in regions, medical provision for the participants in the anti-terrorist operation, prosthetics and giving them dwellings, medical insurance, public television, the creation on the basis of universities of scientific and educational centers. In economy, electronic government, single window, simplified taxation for small and medium-sized business, a decrease in taxation, formation of the modern Ukrainian village, the fulfillment of the association agreement and the membership in EU. After we have read all the programs and election manifestos of political parties, their style has caused grave concerns. We have also made some diplomas that we will send out to political parties who were most distinguished in writing their manifestos. For instance, we have such interesting things like past in the present, the pro-election promise that won't ever be fulfilled because it has to be fulfilled before the party is in the parliament. For instance, to provide for the right of displaced people to take part in the elections of the parliament. The opposition bloc says this. Same for the Batkivshina, to hold an all-Ukrainian referendum on joining NATO on the day where the election to the parliament is going. Also some things that are mutually exceptional. The opposition bloc says to conduct reforms in order to improve investment climate and to create new jobs. After two lines, it says to decrease negative consequences of the implementation of the association agreement by giving preferences to local entrepreneurs. The opposition bloc does not understand that if we give priorities to local manufacturers, then no investors will come. They want very much to replace the result with a process. The party promises a process to voters, not the result, and the voters, of course, think that the party has some functions of an agency to solve their problems, and in many programs you don't see solution to the problems, but you only see the process. The Internet Party of Ukraine, for instance, promises to launch a social network for Ukrainian and non-government organizations. However, it exists, has been in existence for almost 10 years. I also draw your attention to the fact, in order not to use decentralization while federalization has a negative connotation, the party of Sergei Tigipko have written that they are going to launch regionalization. For instance, the freedom of people depends on how they interact with the authorities. This is a very new concept, but until bloc of Petro Poroshenko have included this into their program, no one knew about this. And formation of the modern countryside and the development of soil toiling. And about the diplomas, we have a diploma that we will send to the bloc of Petro Poroshenko. It's called the program from the minutes of procedure, because it does look as if a worker from the secretariat of this party has just written down what one of the leaders said at the Congress. There are no mechanisms there, very general statements, which is very well for the speech of a politician, but very bad for any program, because they are avoiding responsibility. They promise what you can interpret in several ways. Also, the Internet Party of Ukraine wants to do everything through portal. They want to watch and monitor the officials through portals and to monitor tenders through it. We like very much the Samopomich program, but we are sending out a diploma for them, which says that it is a party of selective decisions, as they do not answer several very important questions, but they have a lot about other things. We think that they just want to do only this, then they have to have a huge paragraph on this in the coalition agreement. The communists have got a diploma. They have a very beautifully written program. The nomination is called "It's easy to spend someone else's money." They communists promise a lot, but they never say where they can take the money for this. So maybe they are spending someone else's money. A new politics, the party of slogans. This is a collection of slogans, and every candidate for local elections can take this collection of slogans and shout out loud. The party of countryside romanticism, the Zastup, as they write only about our villages, they do not pay attention to any other. The party of taxation paradise, the party 5.10, because it's about just a program for everybody in everywhere in the world. And of course, Leshko got a diploma. I'll give you everything. The nomination is called "I'll give you everything," because his program is as if he took the wishes of all his voters and put them into his program. For instance, and they are absolutely unfulfillable. For instance, to write off all the foreign debt, and the election manifesto of a political party is their plan for action for the next convocation. We hope that they will fulfill what they promised, and we hope that in future they will write their programs more attentively. Any questions, please? Yes. You have rightly said that the election manifesto, in theory, is what the party has to do when they are in power. But you also know that in Ukraine this is a mere formality. The voters know that this is a collection of slogans, and it is not worth even any attention. So people in Ukraine do not vote with their reason, but with their emotions. You are studying those programs and manifestos not for the first time, probably. How can we make Ukrainian voters to listen more to their reason, not to emotions?
Very good question, especially about Vyboromат, because it was not set up for average vote. That was done for people who are lazy to read the programs, who want to understand who corresponds to their ideas. But in the result, we see that the voters are not ready to spend a lot of time, and that's probably the sign of a low political culture. And my personal opinion is that the time will come and we will be changing it little by our project or others. Do you believe that's because people are convinced that not a single party fulfills its promises? People just do not believe, and they're not interested in reading the election programs. They know that nothing will be executed. It's not so much about political culture. I agree. There is this problem. People do not analyze who they are voting for. But why should I read? Why should I analyze? We know that's pure populism. Democratic society is one organism. If the voters are not interested in what the parties are doing for 1, 2, 3, 4 years, that is why the parties are doing what they want. The symbol of our barometer is a circle, because that's like a circle, and the voters have to control the parties and demand, because if it's not controlled, when the voters do not demand that the promises are fulfilled, then nothing will change. In other countries, have you paid attention to election programs of political leaders abroad? Are such programs formulated more specifically in other countries? Maybe that's the idea of a program, to have just slogans. In other countries, the program is formed from the bottom up. It's not lawyers, not technologies, it's not just a presentation for political leaders. The program is discussed and is adopted at the Congress after everyone read. On the other hand, when mothers get together at a playground, they're not discussing what they were doing during holidays, but they say that, have you seen the program? I will vote for this party because they will do this and that and that. What are your next steps of your project? The coalition agreement hasn't been signed yet. The parties do not have not specified exactly what they want to see in the text of the coalition agreement. Even after that, we will analyze, because that's a living organism. Let us be the beginning of that. Will be the voters who will demand implementation. All 6 parties which are in parliament have 5 common items, and it's interesting to see whether they will be voting similarly on, for example, the issue of improving security of the country, and will be able to see the results of monitoring at your website and at Facebook, in the Facebook. I would like to wish you such projects which analyze how promises are fulfilled. They are fragmented. 1 year passed, for example, and as a rule, the institution, I've been following it in the past, the institutions are making the research, which, well, something is popular and then they forget about it for 4 years. We would like to wish you to organize some updating, not like once a year, once in 2 years, but update it systemically so that you can go and see it. For example, we see there was such a promise, and was this promise fulfilled or not? That would be good, and media would be able to follow that, and that would be also good for civil society, and we'll be trying this way to change the understanding of people about what's happening. Our ideas and our plans coincide. And once this idea came to several heads, that means that we need to do that. And thank you for your idea. Our working day is over for today.